Hello, Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It's late, it's at night. I was traveling all day, had a lot to do, had a lot to ship back. Yes, I am making excuses, and it's the reason that it's late, but at least we're in the formative stage of what I'm going to be showing you, so we're not missing anything. But I didn't want to just go the whole day and not put out a video discussion because we do have something to talk about. Actually, a couple of somethings, but one of them I think is going to be more impactful than the other. So let's jump right into it. I think we know by now that this area down here has been tagged and labeled as Invest Area 90L. Remember, we go through the numbers 90 through 99 and the letter L for Atlantic to assign more resources, modeling, etc., a focus, like an area of investigation. It's kind of like calling something a suspect. But instead of just saying a suspect area of weather or a blob of clouds, the naming convention of 90 through 99 with those number sequences and the letter L for Atlantic, that's how we do it. So here it is. This is 90L. We'll just put 90 here. And this is another disturbance that's going to bring a lot of rainfall and just very strong onshore flow here. It's not going to have a name probably, but it's going to have tropical origins, if you will, over tropical water, very warm water temperatures. So more rainfall over the very wet and soggy, I saw it with my own eyes, South Florida over the next few days. So we have to watch this area as well, and it's going to move through and then kind of fizzle out up here. But I don't think this is going to fizzle out at all. The models are pretty aggressive with it, and we're just getting started. Remember, all I'm going to say is remember before when we were just getting started with Irma and with Maria and with Jose and with Lee, and they have all overachieved. Even Harvey that came off the Yucatan here and really overachieved on its way in and then turning north, not quite like that, but you remember, and I'm just, why stop now? Why would the atmosphere and the ocean suddenly be less conducive to doing that, overachieving, when the conditions are probably the most favorable that we're going to see until the wintertime sets in? And that's just the reality of it. I'm not being, I think by now you realize there is no hyperbole with this at all. When you have a freaking 185 mile per hour hurricane that lasted for 37 hours, that's pretty sensational in and of itself. I think you would agree. So the stage is set here. This is the vorticity signature, and we haven't looked at this map in a while, but there it is of 90L. This is some energy trying to come together in the vicinity of the Florida Straits. Old frontal boundary over here, nice non-tropical low pressure there. Some tropical wave energy. This may try to pile in, and this all comes together. And like I said, it's going to paint a very wet and windy period over parts of Florida. This, let's see if I can use the color orange. Strong high pressure up here, and the pressure gradient down here between the high pressure to the north and lowering of pressures in the Caribbean. That's going to squeeze the air, okay? And it's going to be an onshore flow. You got the full moon, the king tides. So I'm just warning you folks down here in South Florida, it's not going to be pleasant, and it's not going to have a name. And it's just one of those things. It kind of slips through the cracks. It's not even going to be an organized storm, really, more than just a disturbance, if you will. So please keep an eye on that. And yes, it's going to hamper some of the recovery efforts down there that are ongoing. Those of you that have roof damage, etc., that's just the last thing you want to hear about is heavy rain. So let's talk about the potential here for something to get going and get going in a big way. Right now, 90L located down here near Costa Rica and Panama, forecast by the models generally to move up towards this direction, and that's going to put it right over the warmest water in the Western Hemisphere. These upper ocean heat content values are exceptional, and even up into the Gulf of Mexico here, overall the water temperatures are still in the low to mid 80s at the surface, and then deeper down, this upper ocean heat content high enough that we can still have intense hurricanes form. So at this point, like I said, considering what we have seen already, I wouldn't put anything past rapid intensification happening. We need to be ready. And the central Gulf Coast up here We had Cindy that impacted southwest Louisiana as the landfall point, but then it had all that onshore flow up here and all the heavy rain. Other than that, that's been about it this year for this region. This has been unscathed for the most part, certainly by a direct impact from a hurricane. Will this system that's developing down here break that? We'll just have to wait and see. I could be jumping the gun just a little bit, but the models are getting to be pretty aggressive. This is the fairly early still in the overall scheme of things, spaghetti plot, as they call it, as we call it. And you notice that that's a pretty tightly clustered envelope of model suite there, isn't it? I mean, if you had to cone around it, so to speak, sort of draw the borders of it, and the edges of the guidance envelope, that's a good way to put it. This is what it looks like. And you see, this implied threat here to the central Gulf Coast. One of the models, I guess that's the HMON, which I believe that replaces the GFDL. It's kind of, hey, I'm going to go over here and visit near Panama City Beach or whatever. We're going to probably see some divergence in these models over time, but for right now at least, and this is still early because we do not have a tropical cyclone yet. This is all speculative on an area of investigation, etc. So things can change, but you know what? If you're over here in Louisiana, all the way to the Florida Panhandle and the Big Bend area, I would be watching this very closely, and you know the rest. At least you should by now. You know what can happen. Intensity, the statistical models here, the ships, pretty aggressive, making it a Category 2 hurricane. So this must be seeing low shear, high water temperatures. I did not look at the ship's diagnostic messaging, but you look at that and you say, okay, if the statistical analysis here, and it's literally Statistical Hurricane Intensity Prediction Scheme, that's the ship's model. That's what that acronym stands for. And when you see it go like that, well, it's seeing favorable conditions. The Hurricane Weather Research Forecast model, also fairly aggressive. The HWRF aggressive. And then you see this big drop-off, and I guess they're showing landfall between 108, maybe 96 to 120 hours. That's pretty fast. That this could all be over in 5 days. I mean, wow. So, I just got back from Florida tonight. I'm waiting for all of my equipment to show up from FedEx ground on Thursday. And we're talking about I'm going to have to get in the car Friday morning, the Tahoe, and head down somewhere. Maybe, the clock is already ticking, and this system is still down there in the Southwest Caribbean. Unbelievable. So, yeah, I got to be on top of it. Just want to show you the 18Z GFS. This is what it looks like at the 5,000 foot level of the atmosphere. Tropical cyclone trying to do something over here in Southeast Pacific. This is that disturbance I was showing you, trying to gather and move across South Florida. All that yellow and green indicates vorticity and energy. And then here comes this system here. And I just want to point out a couple things. Let's see if I can go back. And let's go back a few frames if this will let me. Look at this right here. When I see the model picking up on this banding, man, that worries me. When the model shows this large feeder band coming in, and these are not clouds, this is spin in the atmosphere, what we call vorticity. I like to think of it as energy, and it relates to the structure of the system. There's a lot more to it meteorologically than that, believe you me, but from a simple standpoint, when I see that, and that's, curled up like that, are you kidding me? It's trying to bundle an incredible amount of energy over the warmest, deepest water in the Western Hemisphere, where that water runs way down deep. So let's keep putting this into motion. And as we go through time here, you see it crosses over the Yucatan, the northeast Yucatan, and then it gets pretty far to the west there before, I guess, enough weakness in the atmosphere, steering currents, maybe the backside of the ridge over here, and then you've got a trough trying to approach, and there's your alleyway, I guess. This can change, obviously, but, the GFS gets it on shore by Sunday afternoon, it looks like, in southeast Louisiana. So we're going to have to really, really watch this. Let's just make it a little faster. You see the evolution of it there. Really starts to come together off of Honduras and Nicaragua, coming up in there to the Northwest the Northwest Caribbean and into the Gulf, and then maybe a landfall somewhere near Morgan City on this particular run. It's one run, one model. I like John Morales down at NBC6 in Florida says that when he puts these tweets out and you see a model solution, and it's true. It's one run, one model. Take it for what it's worth. But notice this too, man. Look at that giant area of high pressure outlined so well in the beginning of the run. Here's your disturbance. There's just so much to look at. Unbelievable. Hopefully this will be the last, but that it's in fairly early October, I'm kind of worried that this won't be the last. And if it does get named, it'll be named Nate. And we shall see. All right? So there's a look at what I know tonight, a preliminary glance. We'll let the overnight models do their thing. They'll have more information. They'll be able to digest what's happening, kind of taking it all into consideration, and then we'll see what the output is. And then tomorrow morning, I'll put together a more thorough video. I think this was pretty good for putting it together here at 10:45, and we'll see what happens with this. It's not over yet, that's for sure. All right. Hey, thanks to everybody who was sort of cheering me on down in Florida, picking up all the equipment. It's a mess down there in some areas. The debris removal process seems to be slow. I feel for you. I've been through that before in hurricanes that impacted southeast North Carolina where I live, and I know all about it. And hang in there, be patient. I know that's easy for me to say, but it was great being back. It was great to retrieve all of the equipment, and we'll see. Are we going to be putting it out for one more big hurricane event or what? I guess we're all going to find out together. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks for watching. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll have more for you starting tomorrow morning.